You may think you've lost your ability to feel. You may even believe something inside you has permanently shut off. But biology tells a different story. Here's what most people don't realize about stress physiology. When a nervous system is exposed to prolonged, inescapable pressure, it does not stay in fight mode forever. It cannot remain in a state of constant activation indefinitely. It eventually pulls the emergency brake. It reduces output. It lowers signal intensity. It shifts energy allocation. And when it does, it can look exactly like emotional death. Not dramatic collapse, just quiet absence. Many men describe it the same way. I feel nothing. I don't recognize myself. I look at my family and I know I love them, but I feel blank. You may still show up every day. You may still fulfill responsibilities. You may still function at a surface level, but internally, the emotional signal that once carried warmth, attachment, urgency, and presence feels muted or distant. Connection becomes cognitive instead of visceral. You know what you should feel, but your body does not generate the sensation. You remember what caring felt like. You remember what excitement felt like. But the present experience is flat. This is not rare. It is not unusual under chronic stress exposure. Biology explains this pattern. When stress is chronic and unresolved, the nervous system adapts. Not emotionally, physiologically. Research shows the nervous system learns threat through repetition. Chronic threat exposure strengthens amygdala reactivity through repeated stress signaling. Sustained stress signaling also activates microglia, increasing inflammatory cytokines that promote a sickness behavior conservation state. Energy becomes prioritized for survival rather than engagement. If pressure continues long enough, the system stops trying to win. It stops trying to fight. It starts trying to survive. Chronic stress activates the sympathetic system. Heart rate increases. Cortisol rises. Muscles stay tense. Breathing becomes shallow. This state is useful in short bursts, but when the stressor doesn't end, the system cannot sustain high alert forever. In early phases, activation is sharp and reactive. Over time, it becomes background and continuous. Eventually, the body shifts from acute alarm to energy preservation. So it shifts strategy. Instead of fighting, it conserves. Neuroscience calls this an immobilization response. The dorsal branch of the vagus nerve increases dominance. Dorsal vagal activation suppresses metabolic output to conserve energy under prolonged stress. Metabolism slows. Motivation drops. You may still complete responsibilities, but the internal sense of drive is absent. Effort continues without internal reward. Emotional intensity flattens, not because you don't care, but because your system calculates that caring is too expensive under sustained threat. Under chronic threat prediction, the brain prioritizes survival over connection. The amygdala remains sensitized. Cortisol exposure becomes prolonged. Over time, this disrupts normal dopamine signaling.
Chronic cortisol exposure downregulates dopaminergic pathways involved in motivation and reward processing. Dynorphin release under stress activates kappa opioid pathways that reduce dopamine release in reward circuits. Lateral habenula hyperactivity under inescapable stress inhibits downstream dopamine and serotonin centers. Dopamine is not just pleasure, it is drive, interest, anticipation, engagement. When stress chemistry dominates, reward chemistry is suppressed. Elevated glucocorticoids inhibit hypothalamic signaling required for testosterone synthesis. The free testosterone to cortisol ratio often shifts under chronic stress load. Memory falters, concentration drops, decision-making slows, time feels distorted. Hours can pass without distinct markers. Days blur together without emotional peaks. Your chest feels heavy or numb.
Reduced interoceptive signaling from the insula decreases conscious awareness of internal emotional states. From the inside, it feels like becoming a ghost in your own life. Externally, others may see stability. Internally, there is detachment. But from a biological lens, it is a protective break. When emotional output drops, the mind creates a story. I'm broken. I've changed. I don't love my family anymore. But the system anchor is biological. Chronic sympathetic overdrive, followed by parasympathetic immobilization. Not moral failure, not character decay. In later chronic phases, cortisol rhythms can flatten, blunting the normal cortisol awakening response that signals natural wakefulness. Heart rate variability may decrease under sustained autonomic imbalance. Inflammatory markers such as CRP, IL-6, and TNF-alpha may increase during prolonged stress signaling. DHEAS levels can decline relative to cortisol under extended allostatic load. There are three broad autonomic states: fight or flight, social engagement, freeze. Freeze is not weakness. It is an evolutionarily conserved response used when escape feels impossible. The system reduces output to survive prolonged strain. Emotional numbness is not the absence of emotion. It is suppressed expression under perceived threat conditions. The nervous system shifted from overactivation to conservation, from fire to freeze. Both are survival modes. Neither are identity. Understanding that mechanism changes the story, not from "I am broken," but from "my nervous system adapted."